Of Zandspruit will finally get electricity as early as July, and that's the undertaking by the City of Johannesburg. The announcement follows recent violent protests after Eskom disconnected power to residents there. Eskom says it cut power to discourage illegal connections, which have claimed numerous lives over the past years. But residents believe it's just another election ploy.
Zandspruit informal settlement, one of the oldest in Johannesburg. There are over 15,000 shacks here and the streets bustling. But come nightfall, it's a different picture. The streets are almost deserted. Flickering candles, the only source of light for most, after Eskom pulled the plug on them. Ploy and her family were among the first to set up home in Zandspruit in 1994.
Since living here, we have never had electricity. It's always been dark. We rely on paraffin, or sometimes we have to make fire to cook for children. There's no progress here.
Walking in this dark, narrow alley is a terrifying experience. Residents say this is how they've been living for the past 2 decades, a haven for criminals who pounce in the dead of night. The very reason why many opted for illegal connections.
When there's a crime, even the police can't manage to get inside. Where there is a sick people, even the ambulance can't get in.
But finally, light at the end of the tunnel.
We are having plans to electrify Zandspruit. Eskom has committed that by July they would have started the actual electrification. So between now and July, we need to decant the reception area.
Mfikwe says the project will be done in phases and is expected to take at least 3 years before the whole of Zandspruit will be electrified. However, residents are not convinced.
We need the information in black and white. It's where we'll go to put the support. Because as a community, we are not against the government. We support the government, but they ignore us, you understand?
In July, because it's almost towards the vote. So I think that is the biggest campaign of the ANC that they do.
The community may be disheartened and skeptical, but many are hopeful that maybe this time the promise will be kept. Mangoba Mchunu, SABC News, Zandspruit.